You may not have heard of this brand, but let's take a closer look and see if Norqain could soon be the next iconic Swiss luxury watch brand on the market. Norqain has a surprising history and distinctive look and build quality, likely to separate itself from other Swiss luxury brands, I think, like Breitling, IWC and Omega. Here we have the Norqain 42mm Adventure Sport, developed, as Norqain say, for a sporty all-rounders constantly looking for a new challenge. Does it live up to that? And in the highly competitive $2,000 price range, does it do enough to separate itself from the pack? Well, let's find out. This is the 42mm automatic winding Adventure Sport timepiece featuring the distinctive Norqain pattern, as they call it, on their blue dial. The watch is powered by Norqain caliber NN09, their name for the 2824. Reliable, accurate, and most watchmakers can work on it. It's a great choice for a watch like this. There is no additional movement work carried out on this model, with the exception of a Norqain personalized rotor, as we can see here. It's worth mentioning that while this movement is off the shelf in this model, Norqain have been working on an exclusive manufacturer caliber that they launched in 2020 as part of a partnership with movement manufacturer Kinesi, the company that provides the in-house movements to Tudor, like we saw in my Black Bay 58. Norqain themselves is a fully independent, family-owned Swiss watch company. All of their watches are powered by mechanical movements, they don't have any quartz, and the reason you may not have heard of them is they only launched in 2018, really new for a Swiss watch company. Let's look at the case, and the case here is a 316L satin stainless steel case with a very high polishing on the edges all the way down to the tip of the lugs. This is beautiful. It captures the light and frames the case of the watch. The screw down crown is nicely proportioned and easy to grip. I think they could have got even away with doing a slightly bigger crown if they'd wanted to. The flatness of the back with the slight convex nature of the screw down case back makes for a very comfortable wear for a larger watch, and this is a larger 42mm. Here you can see it on my 7.2 inch wrist. It covers nearly my entire wrist, but the shape of the case back and the weight distribution is perfect for me. This honestly is one of those watches that's harder to review because seeing it in person for me made the design all make sense. The quality of finishing here is some of the best I have seen in this price range. Whilst we're looking at the case, let's look at those case stats. So 42mm diameter case, a 12.8mm thickness, 22mm lug width, and a 50mm from lug to lug. The watch has a 100-meter water resistance and fitting right into that sports watch category. The bezel is honestly absolutely awesome, one of the best I have seen. I've had the opportunity to speak to Caroline, who is the sister of the co-founder Ben Coffer. Surprisingly, when she told me that one of the board members of the company was Ted Schneider, a member of the family that owned Breitling for nearly 40 years, the bezel totally made sense, as well as a few other choices that they've made. I can see a lot of similarities with the quality of Breitling in Norqain. The bezel is a prime example of this. Not only is it very smooth to turn with a satisfying click, it has a fantastic grip pattern. On this model, the pattern is carried all the way through to the rubber strap, but that's not the part that reminds me of Breitling. If you've not had the pleasure of actuating a Breitling bezel on one of their dive, super oceans or Navitimers, this is probably going to be harder to explain, but the bezel, especially on Navitimers, almost have an organic feel to them. As you click the bezel on these watches, it gives you feedback mechanically. On the Norqain, that manifests itself by giving a slight return as you move to the next click. You click it to the next notch and the bezel slightly returns, giving you a visual but also a physical confirmation it's hit its mark. There's not any play in the bezel because once it hits its mark, it's rock solid. It's just giving you that confirmation physically. That's a feeling I've only ever experienced from Breitling watches like my own B1. The bezel gives a visual and physical feedback, unlike any other watch I've tried. This bezel here is completed with a beautiful ceramic insert with a lumed pip. It's glossy and frames the dial nicely. The visual impact of the dial is what immediately hits you about the watch when you open the box. The dial itself is very distinctive, but wait a second, I can't leave the case without mentioning a big part of it, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of comments on this, and that's the plate on the side, of course. There are a few things that divide opinions in the watch community, like Mercedes hands used on watches that aren't Rolex, the water resistance of dive watches, case sizes and movements, but one I know will draw attention is the plate on the side here. And honestly, it's something that I was not totally sold on, but when I got the chance to speak to Caroline on the phone and she explained to it, I think it's actually a pretty cool design feature of this watch. As you can see, there is a screw-in plate on the side with 2 screws. Here it features the Norqain name, but the screws are not just design elements. You can remove the plate altogether. Norqain's belief is that people love to personalize their watches, new straps. I know we do. Most collectors draw a line at engraving a watch case, but if they do, they usually personalize the case back, which of course can't be seen until the watch is taken off. Norqain came up with this plate idea and it's fairly ingenious. You can opt to have your own text on the plate, and should you say have another kid or have a special date in mind, the watch has you back. You can unscrew the plate and buy another, or if you sell the watch, of course, the new owner can have their own personalized plate added. Just to note, the size of the plate means you need to fit your kid's name or favorite quote into around 30 characters. I did a few experiments and that's honestly surprisingly a lot of characters. Back to the dial, and it is distinctive, no doubt about it. Behind the double coated anti-reflective scratch-proof sapphire glass is a very well executed dial with applied indices, sharp and clear printing, and a great color coded date wheel. The blue dial is the most distinctive, I would say. The hands are simple but perfect for the design, I think, and the oversized arrow on the second hand with its elongated tip really draws the eye. Maybe the logo could have also been applied on the dial, maybe for a future version. The pattern on the dial they call the Norqain pattern. It's a familiar design looking like herringbone flooring or even the bricks outside my apartment here. Honestly, I thought they were going for a carbon fiber look. It turns out the pattern is soon to be very iconic to the brand, is in fact representative of the Swiss Alps and its mountain peaks. The pattern does a great job of capturing the light and giving different shades of blue during the day. The pattern also does a great job of covering the larger dial. In fact, it does a very good job of that. This watch is also available in a chronograph version and you can kind of see where those dials might live. Norqain also produces watches for the National Hockey League Players Association. This may seem strange for a Swiss watch company and one so new. Typically we see watch companies associating themselves with yacht racing or motorsport, but ice hockey is integral to the DNA of the brand, as Mark Streit, the Swiss ice hockey legend and Stanley Cup winner, is a co-founder and also a board member, so that's where some of the dial design elements come from. This love of mountains, the outdoors and Swiss Alps is echoed in the Norqain logo and is representative of the Alps with two ends back to back. Back to the dial, and the lume here is just okay. It's one of the few things about the dial that doesn't seem to be of exceptional high quality. You're not going to get anywhere near the same glow as say a Seiko, but the very high contrast between the blue and white makes viewing in low light very easy when I've been wearing the watch. The rubber strap I have on this review version is one of the better ones that I've seen on a watch. I think if I was going to get this watch, I would go for the metal and maybe add the rubber band on later. So does it live up to other watches in the highly competitive $2,000 price range? Does it do enough to separate itself from the pack? The 2K price bracket puts the watch firmly between other brands like Hamilton and Longines on the lower end and maybe Breitling on the higher end. I really think it does do enough here to justify the price after seeing it in person. And if you're considering this watch, I think getting your hands on one is key. Not only do they offer these watches online, they also have availability through retailers like Chino in the US. I would say that you won't be disappointed at all if you like the photos versus seeing it in person. It's on the larger size for sure. If you have a wrist, say around 6.2 inches or smaller, I think you're going to want to try this watch on in store. I think this watch is priced well after seeing it. It has a level and attention to detail and finishes that separates itself from the $1,000 price range, but doesn't have the romance or name recognition of watches that are creeping towards the $3,000 and above price range. Norqain do make a number of different designs and sizes, so have a look online and see what you think and let me know in the comment section. A big thanks to Caroline at Norqain for lending me this watch. It's gonna be hard to pack it away and send it back. Thanks for watching and see you next time on Casual Watch Reviews.